Hello, and welcome to Read and React with me, Nick Bowen, and my friend Shannon. Hi, Shannon.
Hello.
You were so loud you peeked out. I don't think they even heard the whole hello.
Wow, that was a lot.
It was intense, but I like it. So today we are continuing our review of the book Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. We are reading the first book, and today we'll be focusing on chapters 6 through 9. We'll be referencing stuff that came up in all the chapters previous, probably, maybe, sort of. So spoiler warning for that and anything in chapters 6 through 9. I would also like to be upfront with a content warning. Dungeon Crawler Carl as an entire series has moderate gore and violence content, fantasy violence in particular, but I'm sure there's other types of violence we'll run into, and then minor references to drug use and alcohol. So be aware of that in the content as we will discuss it. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this, but I learned something very interesting today related to Neil Gaiman that I was not aware of. I thanked the person for telling me, because Neil Gaiman up until now has been a large inspiration for me, especially the way he writes characters. And I was like, I have a podcast coming up tonight. I could have easily seen myself referencing him and his writing. But now we won't do that, other than this little tidbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
It's like Joss Whedon all over again.
Sad.
Fucking bastards. I know. Anyway, all right.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is there anything up front you want to say about these four chapters, 6, 7, 8, 9? Yes, I can count. It's weird because 9 minus 6 is 3, but when you're reading,
I do that in my head all the time.
the +1. Math sucks sometimes.
Math is hard.
Yeah.
And I math for a living. That's what's crazy. They pay me to do that. I can't believe that. I know. So, I guess the preface for these 3 chapters is that I think it really sets up the dynamic between Carl and Donut.
Yes.
And their relationship, what it's been like up to this point, and what it will grow into beyond.
Mm-hmm.
There's some important things, not only about their relationship specifically, but you get more insight into the kind of character that Donut is and can grow into, and then the kind of character that Carl is in his unspoken actions, which I think, I don't know, man, these are the whole first book. Really, just every chapter is better than the next, and every better than the last, and it's just great. So yeah, but these 3 specifically, Carl and Donuts, or these 4 chapters, Carl and Donuts' relationship is definitely fleshed out.
Yeah. We got a shit ton of exposition in the first 5 chapters, just an absolute dumpster truck full being dumped on us. But these really get into some really fun characterization. And I think that they are, there's a lot going on about the characters and their relationship, especially because now Donut is spoiler alert, Donut can talk now. Between the 2 of them and their interactions, we get a lot of characterization of Donut and her interaction with Mordecai, which is delightful. We learn about how Donut with her intelligence level, which we'll get to, thinks about her time as just a, domesticated cat. It's lovely. And something I didn't even write this in my notes, but we learned from Carl's own internal monologue, his internal thought processes about himself, that he's someone who doesn't like drama, and he's kind of no nonsense about it. But I get the sense quietly from reading these chapters that there is more to that. That Carl's inability to access his own emotions in the face of drama is an interesting deep facet of this character. Whether or not we will actually explore that, I don't know if Matt Dinniman is someone who's interested in that kind of a
absolutely.
Okay, well, good to know. But that's something I've been thinking about all week since I recorded the last this was 2 weeks ago. We recorded the last episode, and then I immediately the next day read the next 2 chapters because I couldn't wait, and I'll probably do that again.
Do it. So that's what I think. That's the dynamic, not only between like Carl as a character, but Carl as a plot device, and Donut as a character and Donut as a plot device. In that Carl is a man of action. You need a man of action to keep the story moving. Donut is like his heart. Donut is what tethers him to the story. Donut is what tethers him to everything, I think. Because he really does love her, even if he's not able to say those words exactly. He has feelings for this cat. He loves this cat. He raised her from a kitten. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah,
he has like a responsibility and almost like a parental relationship.
Yeah.
Or, parent. I've heard people say fur child. So
my cat is my biological cat. That's my baby.
Yes.
But yeah, Donut's the heart and Carl is the fist.
Yes. Okay, so let's dig into these. So for chapter 6, we at the end of chapter 5, we were inspecting a metric fuck ton of loot, which involved a like super treat, cat treat or something, enhanced pet biscuit, I believe is what it was called. That was like, and Mordecai was like, hey, make sure that you feed that to your cat when you're in a safe zone, because it could be a bad result and they could attack you, but if you're in a safe zone, they won't. And he's like, ooh, well, maybe I won't use it. Maybe I'll hold on to it and I'll sell it. Like, I could get so much stuff if I just sold this for the like thousands of gold. And then she just leaps up and eats it.
Bites on his bite and damn near bites his fingers off trying to get to that tree.
Yeah. I love when written media has those kind of like sudden twist moments where the narrator didn't see it coming. I rolled the cat treat in my fingers. As awful as it was, it would be best to, ow! I cried as Donut leaped up and ate the treat right out of my hand. And then splat, the moment the cat hit the ground, she was transformed into a wet mess of flesh. She splattered like a hunk of hairy jellied water. So that's where we left off. My summary of chapter 6 is ignoring Donut's Sailor Moon transformation sequence, Carl continues to examine the judgmental tooltips of his S-tier loot.
Yep.
So while this transformation is happening, Carl very quickly becomes unconcerned with Donut's transformation. I don't know how much time we're meant to insinuate passes between his Donut eating the treat and him starting to look at his loot, but it in the text seems very quick. I think that in that moment though, he was sort of mollified somewhat by Mordecai's saying like, oh, so it's a positive transformation, because it was transformation instead of the negative reaction that could have happened from her eating the pet biscuit. So he's like, okay. And there was a little timer over her, so he's like, all right, well, I've got 15 minutes. I can sit here, and again, man of action, I can sit here and I can stare at this wet hairy blob doing whatever it's gonna do, where I can inspect my loot and do something with my time here. So in keeping, he's a man of action, and right now the action is look at loot, read tooltips.
Let's look at my shit. Yeah. Let's look at all of my cool newbie gear.
Yeah. So he gets some weapons, a cudgel and a fire poker. The description of these items, it's described as announced by the game show host AI. who is described as like reading off the cudgel text in a caveman voice. I guess I didn't realize that the game show voice, I thought that was an alien. And I also didn't realize that there were multiple AI announcing. I thought the one that was reading the like, you know, terms of service, legal jargon at the very start. Yes. Like, I thought that was the only one. So
no, so there's definitely different voices.
Okay.
So the system AI, where like the one that has a personality, is more game show host.
Okay.
Where it's like, warning, please read this carefully before you put it on, and if you do, you'd have to be a stone cold killer and like that, all that. And then there's an alternate sort of computerized AI like voice where it is more just like cudgel.
Yeah.
You can use this to, or like, you know, this is like to add 1 point to strength, and it just kind of gives you like the general basic description of what the thing is. No personality though.
Yeah, my immediate reaction to this is like, why do we have multiple voices? And I quickly realized that for the reader, it creates like a tonal difference when it's like articulating like how the voices are different. And then it also makes sense from the perspective of the what's the name of the corporation?
The Borant Corporation?
Yeah, the Borant Corporation. Like, that they would have an announcer that probably their viewers can hear that are describing the items that, like, whoever is watching Carl in this moment, they would hear that description as well. Even if, like, say, Mordecai and Donut can't hear that system's voice since it's, like, playing it just for Carl. Right. But, like, that makes sense to me in terms of like the design of the show and the production of the show, that they would have those two voices also for tonal differences for their viewers, not just us, the reader.
It's the difference between whenever you call an automated system or something, and it's like dialing 8675309 versus whenever you get to the automated, you know, help desk person and they're like, "Hi, I'm Tammy. How can I help you?" Like, it's the difference.
It's my distinct pleasure to help you today.
Right, exactly. So it's like, so it's the difference between like reading off something that is like technical writing versus like trying to have an interaction. So like, dude, and also, so one of there was an interview with Matt Dinniman where he was talking to, like, he and Jeff Hayes were like being interviewed for something, and they were like talking about like the different voices. So initially, this book, when he wrote it, there was no narration or anything. Like, he didn't have any of that in mind. And then like he met like Jeff, and then some of the later books that he wrote, like some of the descriptions, like some of the things that he would like describe in the writing, he admitted to doing some of those just to mess with the narrator Jeff.
That's really fun,
because he's like, I just can't wait to hear him read this.
That's really interesting. I love when authors do really clever, fun things like that.
Oh man. And like someone else I was talking to, who's also read the series, when they've also listened to the audiobooks, they were talking about this other series they wanted to listen to, and they're like, man, I'm kind of spoiled though, because like Dungeon Crawler Carl has all these different like narrators, and we were like, there's one narrator who does all the voices. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, it's not like 7 or 8 different people doing all of these crazy characters. It's one fucking dude in a sound booth creating magic with his throat. He's fucking great.
So not only is Matt like writing these different system AI voices for a voice actor to play differently, but like he's thinking about like and truly diving as deep as he possibly can into the question of like, what if a alien species made a like Survivor show, like a dungeon on another planet? Like what are all the things that they would be thinking about Like,
Yes.
so not only is this a love letter to Dungeons and Dragons and role playing games, it's also a love letter to reality TV.
Yeah, and like to speak specifically to that, like there are other characters that come up later who are like kind of like one-off characters. Um, well, not really. Like there's one character that is an orc, right? But when he speaks, like he kind of describes the orc as like having like a pig-like face
Sure.
and like tusks. And Jeff Hayes like kind of narrates it like as if a pig were narrating a thing, and there's like snorts and like kind of squeals like when they're like he's like it's very strange and like incredible. You're like, oh, I know exactly what this thing looks like because of how he's narrating this role. So like just yeah, there I think it's just such a wonderful collaboration between the two, personally.
Yeah.
I want you to listen to the audiobook so fucking bad, dude.
I'll get on that, I promise.
It will change your life, and especially when you hear Donut's voice for the first time, you'll be like, "Oh my god, that's Donut!"
Oh my god, I can't wait. Okay, so Carl gets a choice between a cudgel and a fire poker. He immediately conceives of a third option, to go back out into the hallway and grab the metal pot hat that a goblin was wearing and that he used to smash in Goblin number 3's head.
Because the loot is garbage. It's
like, these two options are not his jam. He also gets something called a goblin pass, which is a tattoo of like a skull, I think. There's this weird like UI effect where it immediately like adheres itself to him and becomes active. Not only that, but it like burns itself onto his skin, but is visible over his clothing. And we get the sense that like, okay, well, he can't hide that, or he could, but he's gonna have to like manipulate the angles at which someone can see him if he's gonna hide it. He can't hide it under clothing. The flavor text says, "It's a tattoo on your forearm. Now you'll never get a good job," which
which surprisingly, it's like lots of attitude already.
So much attitude. It also makes sense because I don't know, for me and a lot of younger like professionals, they don't think as tattoos as that bad, at least not in the more progressive circles I work and hang out in. But I can definitely hear like, the decades of our planet that they've been studying as they prepared for this show.
I also live in the Pacific Northwest though, so
yeah. I mean, yes, that is true. But yeah, we can definitely hear people of older generations saying this. This cannot be hidden unless you purchase an item that covers it. It shows through all layers of clothing. It grants free passage through goblin-controlled territory and 20% more damage taken from natural goblin enemies. Like natural enemies being things like fairies or something. The idea that the NPCs, A, have territory, and B, have their own natural enemies that are also NPCs and monsters in the dungeon is crazy to me. So there's like politics and there's like socio-geographical politics between the monsters.
Because it adds, it adds a backstory to it, right? Like they haven't gotten to a point where they'll have quests or anything.
Sure.
But all of this is set up kind of like ahead of time, right? Where this character has beef with this character and they want their back
and we're
whatever,
definitely
right? So,
we'll definitely see that when we get to some of Donut's items. Like that blew my mind. So we'll put a pin in that for now.
Yeah.
This is really ironic considering that Carl just killed a bunch of goblins. Now apparently he can get through their territory, no problem. It's also funny. Carl describes how he never wanted a tattoo. He doesn't see them as cool. And Carl talks about his dad and how his dad is covered in them. interesting that he has this kind of adversarial, not necessarily adversarial, but like distanced relationship with his own dad, we learn. And now suddenly, in a very short amount of time, I want to know what Carl's dad is like, what he does, and what his jam is. Oh, go ahead.
No, there's just so much I want to tell you. Never mind. It's fine.
It sounds you're foreshadowing, Shannon, maybe unintentionally, but yeah.
Well, without getting into any details about what we know about Carl's relationship with his father, the thing that I find the most interesting about the way, like, we'll see other details crop up about his father throughout the books, but like ever so slowly, like it's drip fed.
Yeah.
Like you'll see a sentence here, and then you won't see anything else again for like, I don't know, another 20 chapters, or like in the next book or something, and you're just like, what is going on?
I mean, we have kind of been drip fed like information about B's family and how intolerable they are, at least from Carl's perspective, and now his dad. So yeah, we're gonna continue to learn about Carl's former support system and friends and family and people in his life that are all now probably dead. Maybe we'll see.
As far as we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than likely, given there's now like, well, like he has now no ability to connect with people outside the dungeon, and there's only like less than 10,000, well, soon to be less than 10,000 left. Okay, so some other stuff. Carl gets an enchanted night gaunt cloak of stoutness, which has like a demon leathery look to it. It gives him +4 constitution on top of whatever he already has. So now he's really beefy in the constitution stat. He's resistant to poison and ice-based attacks. It is piercing resistant. He describes this as a dollar store Batman look. Yep. And it also says Night Gaunt spies won't be happy with you if you are wearing this. So this is a creature. He has the skin or leather of a creature that's in the dungeon.
Yes. But what's great too is that whenever he gets this loot, Mordecai is like, oh.
Yeah.
Just immediately like, oh, dang. So it's like, Carl's already being outfitted with some pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Like right out of the gate.
Yeah. So these are extremely huge benefits to this item. There is some hilarious mockery of what you'll look like if you wear it. The system AI or whoever wrote these tooltips seems very interested in fashion, despite the fact that many people in the dungeon probably don't care about their fashion in this moment.
Right.
They'll do what they got to do to survive. And I'm starting to notice some downsides with these items. They're also like implying like this is really good world building that we're getting, even though we're just sitting here getting loot. Like we're just sitting here doing like loot spreadsheets, but we're learning so much about the dungeon and the world that we haven't experienced. There are spies, there's territories, mobs have feelings not just about the crawlers, but each other, and they have factions. And this led me to the wondering, like, do the mobs really care about territory that's going to be destroyed in 5 days? And then also like, okay, so all of these NPCs, you know, Mordecai, these goblins, these night gaunts, the natural enemies of goblins. So if the floor is destroyed, what does that look like? And are all of these NPC workers that seem to be real people, are they going to die? Like, are they going to be deatomized and reconstructed? Or is it just like suddenly they start going through the whole dungeon and like incinerating crawlers that haven't escaped it? Like, I have questions now. So we'll see. We'll see.
They're excellent questions.
Lots of questions. Great world building. Answering some questions and begetting even more questions.
Yes.
Mordecai at this point suggests that the troll skin shirt of pummeling is going to be better than the cloak of stoutness for Carl, I think. It has a huge regeneration skill that'll let him heal naturally, really fast. And it has melee-based damage debuffs, such as stun, knockback, disarm, being out of breath. Like, Carl can no longer suffer from those debuffs if he's wearing it. It is apparently also more stylish. It is the tooltip also says, let me get the exact quote here. Where is this? Unlike most monster skin apparel items, this shirt will not grant a negative reaction amongst trolls. In fact, lady trolls might just want to haul you away for some one-on-one time if they see you in this.
Oh, yeah. Carl doesn't bang a troll, if that's what you're worried about. Don't worry about that.
No, I'm not worried about that. This is like the second reference to like romantic encounters, but this one is a lot more menacing, and in fact I would argue it's like it is like alluding to like NPCs who are people neglecting consent and committing sexual violence. I like, that's weird.
Maybe
that didn't sit well with me.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, maybe that's how it reads, but there's none of that happening in the book.
Sure. I don't think we're going there, but I like, that's a threat. He's like, Matt Dinniman is putting a threat on the page that our character has to think about or worry might happen, and other characters might worry might happen. So, like,
I look at it more, I guess I didn't read it like that. I saw it more as like, you will be sexually attractive to trolls.
Yeah. I mean, maybe these
everything the AI says is horrible.
Yeah. So, and this isn't, I think, the first time this has been brought up. Like, I don't remember the first example, but that was something I thought about. And, okay, the flip side of this, in thinking about the fact that we are constantly supposed to be thinking about what is the Bowen Corporation doing to make the show more watchable, that's obviously something they're not going to let happen. Like, that is, I'd imagine, not interesting to viewers of their show and going to hurt their numbers. So I wasn't worried that that would actually come up in the book, but it was just kind of a...
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And I guess, yeah, like I didn't even think of it that way. I was just like, I don't know. It just seemed like wearing the shirt would make you more appealing to troll class mobs. Right.
And I think it's supposed to land as a joke. It didn't land for me. That's fine. Gotcha. We quickly move on to Mordecai saying that shirt is one of the best underarmament garments for tanking. He's describing this as an under armor garment. So now we have layers of armor. So in fact, he can probably wear both the shirt of pummeling and the night gaunt cloak. I don't think he does, but he mentions that. And I wrote down in my notes, layers of armor, can we wear both? And then immediately Carl puts on both. He gets some more achievements. Shannon, I messaged you earlier this week a video I found on Instagram that was like this dude going, if you're the first person in the world to break 2 world records, do you get a 3rd world record for being the first to do that? And by getting that world record, a 3rd world record, do you get a 4th? And by getting a 4th, do you get and I'm like, I texted you, I'm like, it's the achievement system in Dungeon Crawler exactly. Carl. They're just throwing out like medals for fucking everything.
Well, I mean, and that's you know, like in World of Warcraft, like you get, you know what I mean? Like as soon as you walk into a town, they're like, you walk in, holy shit.
Yeah.
is loot.
I don't remember exact
Well, then there
circumstances,
now.
but I know like when you log in with like a new character that's like pre-leveled up or something, you just get like umpteen achievements and it
Massive
just
amounts,
blows
yeah.
your eardrums, and there's just a big bright flash on the screen as it like multiplies the effect of getting an achievement many
Isn't
many
it that,
times.
like, it's like that dun dun
Yeah.
with the horn. Yeah.
Okay.
In a minute.
So Carl gets more achievements. Of course, none of them are pants or shoes, but he does get a toe ring of Splatter Skunk. This was the toe ring that you were so excited for, and that is just laughing in the face of Carl's desire to get shoes right now.
Yeah.
It provides 3 strength and +3 to powerful strike skill. It is once again concerned with critiquing how crawlers look and how humans behave with the gear. The flavor text says, "You look like one of those hippie assholes who sit around in a field juggling and hula hooping all day." God damn it.
I love it.
Mordecai immediately says he had given advice like you should train in a weapon as fast as you can. Go find another guild that'll train you in weapons. And then he just goes, "Oh, yeah, with that toe ring, you should fight unarmed. With your unarmed combat and is it pugilism? Pugilism skill. You are going to be extremely strong. You should try a monk class." Carl puts on the toe ring, which all of this gear seems to be like expanding and shrinking to make sure it fits him relatively comfortably. But he does not like the feel of the toe ring, period.
It feels just like a toe ring would feel. Like when you put one on. I don't know if you've ever put a toe ring on, but I have. And, it feels like you've got some shit between your toes.
Yeah.
Like with every step, you're like, this is terrible.
Yeah. Is this your note here? Or did I write this? I think I wrote.
It's me.
Go ahead.
Well, anything that's in the blue is me.
Oh, in the blue. Oh, I see. Oh, we're getting to your notes here in a bit. Sorry. And thank you for making that distinct. So Carl is both not a jewelry or a tattoo guy. Like me, he's very simple. He likes to wear his clothes, and he likes to wear clothes and not be naked. But he's not he doesn't really like jewelry. I have a tattoo. I'm actually going. I have an appointment to start on my second tattoo next, not this Friday, but next.
You have to send me pictures.
Oh, I will. Let's see. I felt my strength rise by 50%. You're as strong as any human who's ever lived, says Mordecai. I asked at this point, are we just going to be inundated with achievements and box opening? Yes, but because we've been just going through achievement after achievement after achievement and like looking at every single fucking box. And it's right at this moment where I'm like starting to get kind of annoyed with this, that Matt Dinniman is like, okay, we open more boxes. Moving on.
Well, so one of the ways that they kind of get around that is by like he doesn't call out every achievement that he gets. He only calls out the notable ones.
Okay.
Which to me suggests like, okay, these are the notable ones. We're going to be seeing some of this skill or some use from this loot later in the chapter or later in the book or whatever.
Yeah.
It is a lot. It's gratuitous.
Yes, it is gratuitous. And speaking of gratuitous, Carl is looking at his skills list again. He like changes some filters so he can like actually see an excessively long list of skills, including one for playing Frogger.
So like this was something that like Mordecai was kind of taking him through, like with his like his initial like menu or whatever. And he sees like everything. Like one of the things on the list is like breathing air.
Yes,
yes. Tying shoes, level 3.
Right, like, that are normally filtered out, but you can't, but are codified. Yeah.
Exactly. So he, so he starts thinking like, well, what are some of the things that I'm good at? And he immediately calls to mind this Frogger machine.
Yeah.
And he, kind of goes into like why his mom would kind of like keep him in the basement when his dad and his dad's friends would party. And the only thing that was down there, because this was pre-internet. There's no free porn. He's just a kid. What is he going to do? He plays Frogger.
Yes.
He looks up the skill, and he kind of like in a world where like, his pugilism skill is like 2 or 3 or something like that. He looks up Frogger, and it's an 8.
Yes.
So he's like,
yeah, Mordecai says that most of the like attributes, like strength and con and wisdom not wisdom, specifically not wisdom, but like charisma and intelligence, those are like on average for humans between a 2 and a 5. He's got an 8. He's got an 8 in Frogger.
So he's pretty badass.
Yeah. We learn a little bit more about Carl's dad. He smoked and drank with his buddies. And rather than Carl's mom sending the, dad and his boys to the basement to smoke and drink, nope, send Carl. Fuck Carl. Interesting. And then it's at this point, as Carl is looking at his mad Frogger skills and validation that he's really good at Frogger compared to other humans, that he hears a sultry and pompous voice that mocks his appearance. I just can't fathom why Miss Beatrice hired you in the first place. Oh my God. Oh, what a strong opening line.
Excellent.
Yes, we have Princess Donut, who is mocking and condescending Carl while being sexy.
Yep.
She refers to B as Miss Beatrice.
Beatrice.
And refers to Carl as someone who was hired by B.
To help. Yeah.
Carl is the help, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Donut is inserting herself in the pecking order immediately upon finding a voice. I
imagine that if my cat could speak, my partner would very much be Daddy. This is my papa, and you are the lady that is soft like a pillow that I like to sleep on. That's what I am to her. I'm a big warm waterbed.
Yes.
and I bring her food.
That's the relationship with cats for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. My partner is Papa.
Yes.
That's it. So she is like, just with that one sentence, like, and the derision in her tone, you immediately get this sense that Donut is like, Carl is beneath me. Carl is the hired help.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a cat, so she's an asshole. She's just an asshole. And that's just how it is. That's it.
Yeah. Really, Carl? A new voice said. It was female, sultry yet pompous. If you're going to insist upon wearing that hideous cloak in public, you might want to do yourself the dignity of putting pants on first. I just can't fathom why Miss Beatrice hired you in the first place.
Yep.
I looked wildly about for the speaker, expecting to find someone dressed like a medieval princess. Instead, all I saw was the cat. She hasn't changed physically. Her appearance is the same.
Exactly. She's so like right upon the opening of like chapter 7, he's like, donut?
Yeah, that's the chapter. Like, this was a very short chapter, but really, I feel like maybe I might have missed the mark last episode and should have included chapter 7. And this was the right place to turn our episode on, but still, this was a great hook, a great reveal.
It was a super short, yeah, exactly. Like, because you like the end of the chapter, you hear Donut's voice for the first time, and he's like, "The fuck." But yeah, Donut is unchanged. Donut is exactly as she was as a cat, maybe a little bit bigger, like slightly. She just looks like a slightly larger version of herself. And that's it. That's the only thing that's changed.
Yes.
Except now she can say the things
that are on her mind. And she'll still use her claws to communicate them, even though she has a voice. So we move into chapter 7. My summary reads, "Bow before the new crawler, peasants." Carl's contrived lucky streak continues. Now this cat that he felt responsible for to try and make it through the dungeon with her to keep her alive now can talk and has full agency and capability. In fact, is more capable than Carl. Donut reveals, first off, Carl, my name is GCBWRNW, Princess Donut the Queen and Chunk. I had no idea what the fuck she was talking about. I work in an industry full of acronyms. I have no idea what these acronyms are. They are. I looked these up. They have to do with cat show awards.
Oh. Grand champion.
Grand champion. Something Northwest.
Yeah.
Princess Donut, the Queen Anne Chunk. Queen Anne being an area of Seattle that they live in, and she is the chunk of Queen Anne. Yep. Queen Anne, the area is named after a queen, of course, and this is Princess Donut. And don't you forget it. I'm going to have to insist you call me by my proper title. I will accept Princess or Princess Donut, but not if we are in the presence of high company. She is insisting things. She is demanding what she will accept. She is setting boundaries, although they are really not that socially acceptable to humans anyway. She's also stating that her Carl's agency means less than her own.
Exactly.
Which is just really funny and a fun way to like finally introduce this character. Yeah, did you have something to add there?
It was just one of those things like I about her stats specifically.
Yes. Do you want to go over those?
Yes.
What were they to begin with?
Like,
because she was considered a pet.
Exactly. She entered the dungeon as like nothing. She was just a cat, like level 1 everything across the board.
She had 1 strength, 1 intelligence, 1 constitution, 5 dexterity, and 8 charisma, because that's all cats are. They can leap and run and get the zoomies, and they are cute as fucking hell, or nasty as hell.
I want to pet this murder flu.
Yeah, so 11158 were her stats, and now what are they?
So her intelligence, or I'm sorry, her strength is 11, right? Her intelligence is 11. Her dex is now an 8. Her charisma is 25.
Holy fuck.
25. But her constitution is 2.
Yes. Yes. The effect of this treat that she ate, the enhanced growth buff, boosts 4 random stats, and additional levels will grant strength and intelligence +1 and charisma +2, but her constitution cannot go above a 2. She is a glass cannon.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly, yes. Yes.
So the dynamic between her and Carl and the like necessity of protecting her, it's immediately obvious that has not changed, but she's also extremely capable of fending for herself.
Absolutely. She's not just fending for herself. I mean, she needs Carl because again, she has a constitution of 2, but in all other respects, she's stronger than him. She's got more charisma than him. She's like got more intelligence than him, which is better for if you're like, a spellcasting class, but we haven't gotten to any of that yet. But I think what's great about this is that Matt Dinniman doesn't do anything just by like happenstance. He's not going to give a cat a charisma of 25 and then not use it. So it establishes the importance the importance of charisma in the overall game of the dungeon.
Yes.
And which is a skill that I have never once put more than the bare fucking minimum into in any campaign I've ever played with you, and it bites me in the ass every time because all of the NPCs are like, they need that high charisma, and none of us ever have it. We're always just like, we have -1 charisma.
Yes.
They hate us.
Yeah, it's really funny because we're getting all these little hints that like charisma and social interactions can like there will be social opportunities to get like social advancement through the dungeon and through encounters. Obviously we haven't had that so far, and we won't on this floor, at least not in these chapters. But now Donut is built for it. Heavily convincing. She has an 11 in strength and intelligence. That's like 2 to 3 or 4 times higher than most humans.
Yes. She's incredibly strong. I know.
Oh boy.
So, but this is one of those. This is what the enhanced pet biscuit did. Like so, and it changed her. But she's still adjusting to being a cat that has intelligence.
Yes.
A cat that has 25 charisma. That is an 11 in strength. It's like so, but she's kind of leaning back on this identity of the cat that was at this point.
Right.
She's such an asshole. She's just a real.
Oh yeah.
If cats could talk,
well,
that's what Donut is. It's very much like you clean my poop, you bring me food, and then we're a hushabye. I don't want to hear any more out of you.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah.
I don't know. She exceeds my expectations in every way. I love Donut so much.
Yeah. So she's getting a flat, like, again, +1 strength, +1 intelligence, +2 charisma per level. And she is now considered by the system to be a crawler.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everyone else in this dungeon is getting, 2 stats per level?
But she gets 3.
She gets 4. Strength, int, right. And 2 charisma. Now they get to choose where they go, and her lowest stat will never improve, which sucks. And her dex, which those are her 2, I think, biggest survivability stats, like the ability to like resist damage or avoid damage, dexterity and con. Like those will never increase, which is kind of scary. So she better be able to fucking deal with whatever comes her way, or rely on Carl.
There's a little bit of both.
So it goes on to say these could go up depending on gear she finds, because now as a crawler she can equip gear, or if she picks a race that grants bonuses to those stats. Right. I wrote in all caps, race? Yes, so because she's a crawler.
Not till the 3rd level.
But not till the 3rd floor or level. It's the third floor, not level 3. Right. Okay. So Mordecai's like, oh, high charisma, you should be a bard. Bards benefit from high charisma. Mordecai clarifies crawlers and guildmasters are going to be immune to her bardic sexiness, but not NPCs or mobs. Right. So that'll be interesting, but also useful that it's not going to affect other crawlers. Carl wonders how she can talk. He says this out loud. She calls him rude and dismissive. And she is already connecting the dots on the fact that there is a translation system, like that is helping her and Carl communicate with Mordecai, like that they're using a common language. Or it's translating for them. I forget which. Mordecai claims that she's a crawler now, and and that he will have to start the tutorial over because she missed it. But she has caught a lot of the tutorial because she heard it, but she didn't understand it when she was in her, basic cat form. But she remembers it, and she can now.
She understands it.
She
now.
Is retroactively translating and understanding the tutorial. I wrote, the conclusion she drew of a translation system is Donut both understanding language, her circumstances, technology, and the advanced magic happening around her on her own. But no, she heard everything.
She's like, yep, just give me my access. I want to open my boxes. Do it now. Thank you.
He's a little slow. Intelligence of only 3. Sad, really. But he's been with the family for a while now, and I just cannot see myself letting him go. She is so fucking high society. It's insane.
Yes, I love her.
Mordecai unlocks her inventory. She gets a legendary box for being the first cat in the dungeon. Go Donut. Sad no one else thought of this. She gets some basic loot, as well as a tome of magic missile, an enchanted crown of the sepsis whore, which is a small jeweled tiara of jewels of smoky and liquid looks. She immediately starts grooming herself, uninterested in understanding the loot. She's more worried about being a cat, or maybe she's already intuiting what the loot is going to do, or is just patient enough to know that it probably doesn't matter immediately. She's not a sweaty gamer like Carl or everyone else in the dungeon. Mordecai. Go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, like, she's very much in the mindset of like, well, whatever happens, Carl will take care of it for me. Like, it's just, it's very much like, well,
I dub thee quartermaster.
Yeah,
you deal with the loot.
Cat. Yeah, this is your problem. Yeah, absolutely.
Mordecai explains that any loot you receive will be usable by your race, but not necessarily useful to your class. So any loot that Carl gets as a human, or if he changes races later, whatever race that is, he will be able to use it. Same with Donut being a quadruped. I think it seems that the system like fixates on the fact that she's a quadruped and gives her stuff
she doesn't
like that.
She doesn't have hands. Exactly.
Correct.
Like, she doesn't have hands. She can't open a door. She has a different user
Well,
interface
she can, and this is really cool. But this is like coming up very soon. Donut then finishes grooming. She learns magic missile from the tome. We learn that tomes teach you things. Scrolls are one-time use items. Mordecai begins to warn Donut. Mordecai begins to warn Donut, who he has been referring to as Princess Donut. Like, he's been using the honorific she requested. And says that the other item she got is extremely valuable, extremely powerful, and extremely dangerous, and she immediately equips it without reading the text.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, so about that crown, before you decide, it's like, bam, it's on her head. Like, it's not like she like reaches out with a paw and puts it on her head. Because she's a quadruped and can't manipulate items in the physical sense, she like her UI, her like experience and interface are different. She just has to think about things like putting on items or using them or opening doors. She just has to be near it and think about it. Great design. Again, what do we do about creatures that come into the dungeon, or races that we mine the planet of that participate in a dungeon who don't have hands? They've thought of everything. Yep.
So the description of the enchanted crown of the sepsis whore.
After she's already equipped it, mind you.
Yes. It reads, "Who's a dirty girl? You're a dirty girl." This is a fleeting item. This is a unique item. It imbues the wearer with +5 intelligence. Donut now has 16 intelligence. Grants the user +5 to the good first impression skill. All attacks, including magic attacks, now have a 15% chance to inflict the sepsis debuff. And then there's a warning that reads, "Warning, parentheses. Seriously though, I'm gonna say this again, in all caps, warning. Read this shit before you put it on." She didn't. Placing the crown upon your head permanently places you within the royal line of succession for the Blood Sultanate on the 9th floor of the World Dungeon. Removing this item will not remove this status. Royal members of the Blood Sultanate will be required to slay the Sultan and all other members of the royal family before descending to the 10th floor. You only want to wear this if you're a bloodthirsty, raging psychopath. Well, fuck.
Yep. So, and they talk about like the fleeting items. So it's like, if you remove it, it's gone from your inventory. You can never get it back. but that doesn't mean that it's removed from the dungeon entirely. So like if she were to take it off of her head, it disappears. Poof, it's no longer there. She is still someone who will need to be killed on the 9th floor by another crawler who may at that time also possess the royal crown. You know what I mean? It's like, so they take it off, it could go to another person, and then that person, so
that's the other part of fleeting is it, once you take it off and it disappears, it appears in the dungeon again. Like that copy just propagates somewhere else for someone else to potentially pick up.
Could be dozens of people.
Oh my god.
So, and not just it's not NPCs, it's other crawlers.
Right. Yes. Like not NPCs, but crawlers specifically, I think.
Yes.
So not only is there some sort of Blood Sultan and all of his NPC progeny to deal with in some sort of political intrigue battle anime that we're going to deal with in a future book. But now, but now potentially other crawlers. So this is unique, meaning if she keeps it, no other crawlers, I assume, will become join this royal line of succession.
Correct.
But this is really interesting because it gives, of course, this character who doesn't need more buffs in the immediate, and also kind of like starts a clock in video game terms. Like there's a ticking clock until there is a very serious threat and risk to Donut.
Yes.
Like this,
not until
this seems very
floor.
but this seems like a big deal.
Yes.
That Donut is completely ambivalent about. Carl,
but I mean, it's still the first floor.
I know.
Still like level 1 and level 2, and it's like they might die on this floor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like,
but we know as the readers of this, like we're rooting for these two to go all the way. So
I love them so much. Yes.
But now we have like something is foreshadowed. We have a portent, a very clear portent about the future. Carl immediately questions Donut's decision to put this on. She calmly and confidently says, "It's purple, Carl. Purple is my color." The jewels she's referring to.
And also all of the purple ribbons that she won as they show that.
Yes.
So that's like, she's like, purple means I'm a winner. It's purple, I want it. So yeah, she's just a cat. I don't know. Yeah.
Donut starts getting more achievements, which means she gets loot, which means she gets achievements, which means she gets loot, and she goes through her own sequence of that stuff. She dislikes torches for some reason. She gets awarded a lot of torches.
I think it's mostly just because it's like shitty loot, and every time she gets another piece of shitty loot, she's like, fuck this thing. Like it's just her. I don't know. It's like her version of Carl getting like that fireplace poker, basically. Like, ugh, what the fuck am I gonna do with this?
Yeah. So the other thing about this Blood Sultanate succession war arc that is impending is not only in this potentially, but in other quests or floors, there are quests to kill other crawlers. I thought that they could work together to get down. But this sounds like it might be putting people at odds, like the system and the narrative of the dungeon might put players at odds with one another.
Yeah, I mean, they want it to be entertaining. They want it to be compelling television. It is Survivor, right? So it's like, you know, if someone has I never watched Survivor, but I know that like they would win tokens or something. Right. And then it's like they'd get like a chicken dinner or something, and then like somebody else is sitting there like eating grubs, and they're like, I want that fucking chicken dinner. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. So it's like it very much is pitting them against one another, in the worst way, because it's the most entertaining television to watch people at their absolute worst and in the most dire of straits tear one another apart. So yeah.
Yeah, this there's a couple references, at least to me, to other media that these brought up. Let's see here. There was something in Battlestar Galactica specifically. I had this thought a moment ago, and I've already forgot it. Maybe it'll come back to me. But so in my favorite anime of all time, Hunter x Hunter, there is an arc where they basically go in inside what they think is a video game that is like a card collecting video game. And it becomes very apparent that this game that has like existed for a decade at least, and has a humongous real world reward, but that no one has beat, like has kind of reached a deadlock because there like are people that are manipulating the rules to like lock out cards from other people getting them. And it like created this situation where people are constantly stabbing each other in the back to get each other's try and get each other's cards and steal them from one another. And I'm beginning to wonder, like, what's the deal with like loot? Can you give loot to other people of your like that you got, or can they take it off of you if they kill you? And I am immediately starting to wonder about some of these mechanics and resources and how other crawlers might kind of naturally start to compete over it and not cooperate.
Yes.
Or you know, something in between, cooperation. Yeah. Oh man, there was something I really wanted to talk about related to Battlestar Galactica because it's also one of my favorite shows.
Dude, I love that show so much.
It's
I'm
so
curious
good.
to see what correlation you made also.
Oh man, there's something right here. Oh, yes, I remember what it is. It had to do with the fact that Donut is now listed as a crawler. There's been a couple instances in these few chapters where the announcer has said, like, here's how many crawlers there are right now. And there's a moment coming up in a future chapter where we get an update on that number. And it has dropped dramatically. I wish we could have seen the number in this moment that Donut becomes a crawler or is recognized by the system as a crawler. In the first season of Battlestar Galactica, where the human race suffers this extinction level attack by their Cylon counterparts, the robots that attack them. Like, the president of the colonies is constantly like, she's got this whiteboard. You remember Rosalind with her whiteboard that's constantly ticking down, and they don't really like make a big deal of it, like ticking down. But you can see it in the background, and every episode the number's lower and lower and lower. But then there's that one episode where someone has a baby, and there's this huge political event around it, and she ends up having the baby, and the number goes up, and it's like one of the only times we ever in the entire series see the number go up. To me, Donut being recognized as a crawler, to me, even though we're so early in this fiction, is kind of like a powerful moment.
Pick up.
Yeah, like, especially with how many people the system is announcing are dead so quickly.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think she was always a crawler, though, is the thing.
Oh, you think so?
Because I think in like one of like, it was like chapter 2 or something, like he like hovers over her, and her like Carl is like 4022 and she's like 4024. She's already listed as a crawler. She's just not like aware.
I see.
She's not able to speak, so like I'm pretty sure she was already listed as a crawler. But I would have like, maybe that would have been a better mechanic or something in that moment, like where as she becomes like she comes online, like to see that number go boop and go up by 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, powerful moments here.
Yes.
Okay, so Carl reflects on the notion of a quest to kill other crawlers. He's disgusted by this.
Yes.
He can barely handle the notion of killing these, quote, NPCs, who at this point, I think Carl recognizes they're people. Like, especially given Mordecai's opened up that he used to be a crawler himself. And I bet Carl's wondering, like, okay, are all of these other NPCs former crawlers, or are they
actually alive?
Are they employed by this corporation? Like, Carl hasn't actually verbalized that, but I think he recognizes it. Just like he recognizes that now the tutorial is over. And he seems really resigned and like he has no idea what to do at this moment. But he also seems like at least a little relieved that now Donut is a little self-sufficient.
Yeah, exactly. Like it kind of took the weight off of his shoulders. Like really, he was like, what the fuck am I going to do with my cat? Like even before he gave her the pet biscuit, he was like, it wasn't like I came into the dungeon with like a mastiff or like a dog or something that could protect me.
Right. Yeah.
But now he's got Donut, who is ultimately more powerful than he is, stronger than he is, and she could protect him.
Yes. And yes, and he will protect her distinctly. Yeah. You will assist me to floor 18 so I may win and resume as queen. Because the system recognized her as stronger than Carl, because of her stats, she has the ability to manipulate the party. She promotes Carl from manservant to bodyguard. She names the party the Royal Court of Princess Donut and changes Carl's title to Royal Bodyguard. And her own title to Grand Champion Best in Dungeon. It's so clear Donut sees herself as a sovereign. And that she saw herself as a sovereign before the transformation. She just now has the words to put to that. And due to this fluke of getting this item that made her stats stronger than Carl's, she's the party leader. This is even more evidence to me that there's going to be some like inter-party drama and potential conflict. Not necessarily with these two, but with other crawlers. They've designed this system and made this decision that forces the party leader to be whoever has the most stats, and they get to make lots of decisions, which could foster resentment. Donut is doing what a lot of party leaders might do, and that is whatever the fuck they want, and enforce that on others, again, creating resentment. Also, to me, speaks to a very early arc of Hunter x Hunter, where they go through a sort of dungeon. There's 5 of them, the 4 lead characters and a 5th that they join with. They all get these bracelets and have to make decisions as a group, and the majority always wins. Which does foster resentment with one character. Very interesting. And I'm interested to hear about other crawler groups that we will probably hear about other crawler groups that fall into some of these traps of intergroup dynamics. But then I ask, okay, so changing titles and changing the party name actually isn't that big of a deal. What else can the party leader do? Titles don't really mean anything. We'll see. There is a little bit more in terms of the system and how it chooses to provide power to people, which we'll get into. Mordecai starts to get really serious and shifts the tone back to the stakes and long-term view. He says, she's more powerful than you. Stick together at least until you get to the 9th floor. So he's like, you may have to kill her on that floor where she's a sultan, like in line for the succession. Right. He says that, and then he hesitates. That will be a challenge. You can always leave the party. That crown is on her head. not yours. Like, don't get dragged into the drama that she's creating due to her own fucking choices. And I just wrote in all caps, what is this foreshadowing?
Guess we'll see.
And then we get to see another more evidence of Donut and Quadruped's different UI design. Donut scratches the door and it opens.
That's my favorite thing. I love it.
Yeah, I love this like kind of universal design that this shitty corporation has. They have the power and the means to make this work, and they do. They choose to. Yeah.
She just still does. Like she's hyper intelligent. She's very strong, and at the end of the day, she's still a kitty cat, and she does the kitty cat scratchies on the door to let it know she wants out, and I love that.
That's great. You have a lot of notes here.
Oh yeah, I mean we went over a lot of the things that I had talked about. What did I write? So just Carl notes her overall appearance and race is unchanged. She's still a cat, just a little bit bigger than she was.
Oh, is she bigger?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But not by much. Okay. That's the thing. Like she may have come in.
It's her strength stat. She's swole now.
Yeah, she's super swole. So maybe like if she was an 8-pound cat going in, she's maybe a 15-pound cat now. So she's a little bit bigger, but she's still a cat. So yeah, and like we talked about like how her stats are higher across the board. Charisma being super important.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, the Sultanate crown. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Covered it all.
Yeah, you noted here towards the end of your notes, and I definitely heard you say this, like, Nick, don't worry about all of this right now. This is on the 9th floor. There's things like that they're bringing up you're worrying about that are on the 4th floor and the 3rd floor. Like, Nick, they gotta get through floor 1, baby. And I just
so much book left.
I just can't help but note all these different anxieties about at different distances in the future that we're being drawn to feel about. Yeah, but yes,
building, baby.
Yeah, the impression we were left with is Donut is still a cat, but she is insane.
Yes.
Okay, we move on to chapter 8. My summary reads, Carl's Spitfire attitude is met by Donut's spitting truth. They are both met by a llama that spat lava.
Yes.
Okay, so it's been about 4 hours since Carl has entered the dungeon, or since the dungeon started, and we've only had one encounter and Tutorial Island. I did some math. If every floor took the maximum amount of time and this like plus 5 days since like more than the last level stayed true, this entire dungeon would take 855 days is what my math says. That's like 2.5 years. Holy shit.
I mean, it's a money-making machine, my dude.
That's a long show.
But that's also assuming that they make it to the 18th floor.
Well, and as we know from Mordecai, no one's made it past floor 11, 13?
I think it was 12.
12.
They got to floor 12. And
he got to 11, and someone else made it to 12 in another dungeon. Wow.
And then died immediately.
Yep. So he got about as far as you get.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the training wheels are off. Carl and Donut depart. Mordecai explains that if they find another guild, which they can find through floor 3, they will be like teleported back to this guild. So they have access to Mordecai until floor 3. I thought Mordecai had said something about like every floor they relocate him and he gets transformed.
Yes.
I'm confused.
Well, so imagine that his room is like an elevator.
Yes.
And when the floor collapses, he'll be pulled down to the next floor. But because of his race that he chose when he was a player, when he was a crawler,
Uh-huh.
every floor they transform him into a common mob type on that floor.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So it's not like this room stays here on the first floor. It will move.
It moves, yeah.
Okay, understood.
And who knows even if that room is on the first floor. Maybe that's just like maybe it's located somewhere else within the dungeon or the world itself or whatever, and it's just generated. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
The world construct is very odd, but like it's just like they'll open a guild room door and there will be Mordecai because he's their guide.
And it's meant, I think it's meant to feel like the creators can move rooms around all they want. Don't worry about it. It's magic. It's meant to be mysterious. Yeah. Carl wishes Mordecai farewell out in the universe, since Mordecai's explained that this is his last dungeon before he gets released from his contract, basically. Mordecai whispers him some advice. It's not worth it, no matter what they tell you. Not until floor 12. And even then, negotiate as much as you can. Remember that. And it just feels like this is a final farewell.
Yeah.
Like, we've just gone over, you'll be able to see me over the next 2 floors. But it sounds like he's saying, like, it sounds like he's saying this is a final farewell. But when I thought about it some more, like, we know that after the first floor, the cameras start to really pick up focus. So this might be the last opportunity he had to say that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. I mean, like, but how many times, think about it like this though, like whenever you're playing like a game like World of Warcraft, after you complete your tutorial, how many times have you gone back to the tutorial guild?
Never.
Exactly.
In fact, I desperately try and skip the tutorial every time I start a new character.
There you go. So this is Mordecai, like, if I never see you again and you somehow make it that far, this is what you need to know. Just remember these words. Like, he's not anticipating ever seeing them again.
Yeah.
And if they do make it, it's like, you know, hey, I did my part. I gave them what advice I could, you know, see you farewell, don't die.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's not common, I guess.
Sure. Back to the analogy of Mordecai as this like sort of Haymitch from Hunger Games that we've talked about. I feel like something that didn't really get explored, at least not in my memory in the books or the films. You know, if you got a recent Hunger Game victor, like maybe someone that won in the last couple years, they might not have as much advice to offer you. Haymitch has been around a long time, and he has dealt with the social, political aspect of the games for so long. So if Katniss had gotten a much younger Victor as her mentor, she might not have gotten as useful advice. I think Carl got very lucky he ran into Mordecai, who's basically like as seasoned as you can be before getting released from your contract.
Very truer words have never been spoken.
And that being said, Mordecai, who made it far enough to get an offer to leave the dungeon and have this out, he doesn't even feel like it's worth it. He's saying,
because you know he's in a life of servitude, and like just because like their contracts last hundreds of years. Yeah. Well beyond the natural lifespan of like whatever his species was whenever he first entered the dungeon.
Right.
So he's. And there are lots of different there are lots of different training guilds too.
Right,
like,
exactly.
We'll get into that. So like, he stumbled on Mordecai, and it was like the best possible decision that he could have made.
Just add it to the list of Carl's contrived luckiness.
Absolutely.
This also brings up for me the fact that Mordecai's hundreds of years old. Like, is that natural for his species? Granted, he's not his own species anymore. Is it the fact that he can change forms Has that been a form of healthcare, kind of resetting his health and his lifespan as a being, or do they just like use advanced medical techniques to keep him alive for hundreds of years? I don't know if we'll ever get an answer, but it's interesting. And Mordecai, where we're just reminded, like, he is someone who had felt like when he reached the 12th floor that he had no choice but to quit, and yet his option was also not worth it.
Yeah.
He exactly. Just like he was a rocket. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place.
It's like, I could die. I guess I could just die, or I guess maybe I'll be a guild master.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And with 3 million players already dead, hold on. Let me read my note here. Oh, quote, was he saying it was better to die than to take whatever exit they offered on floors 10 and 11? He goes on, Carl, there are 3 million dead already. I'm just not expecting to make it. Granted, so Carl says, I'm not expecting to make it. He is being, nihilistic, arguably, realistic, definitely. But he's not saying he won't try. So he's not being defeatist, just nihilistic.
Right. He's not. Yeah, exactly. He's like, he doesn't know what his chances are. He doesn't know what the rest of the mobs are going to look like. He doesn't know what the next level is going to look like. He's going into every situation totally blind. The only thing he knows with any certainty is that he has to kill his way down.
Yeah. And he might as well try.
And to keep Donut alive. That's
right.
It.
Yeah. So they head out, and Donut immediately tells Carl the strategy. I'm a glass cannon. You go first. Walk. Donut demonstrates that she has been listening. She says, we have 29 hours until the show formally airs. We have 29 hours to do something spectacular. But more importantly, we have to find you pants, because I have an image to maintain.
Yeah. Just keep insulting him, like, immediately and constantly. It's just like, I can't I won't be seen with the likes of you. You better do blah blah, like, just demanding. And like such an asshole. And like, this is the point where Carl, like, he's like, all right, fuck it. And he's like, I was feeling real bad about this earlier, but this makes this decision a whole lot easier, and then like lays a lot of truth on her.
Yes, this is incredible. He calls out that Donut has no pants, and she's like, nor am I wearing a cloak that makes me look like I won a participation trophy at the Special Needs Comic Con. Carl, I'm a cat. Cats don't wear pants. Don't be so droll. So she fires another retort at him. Very witty, very insulting. I don't like that she is calling him special needs. That didn't sit well with me, but she's young in terms of having intelligence. So so she's immature. Got it. She's lashing out. Definitely got character flaws. They come up at a junction, and Carl, again true to his word, does not deal with drama. He says, look, I get you're stronger than me, but I don't want to deal with his bullshit. I'm going my own way. I'm probably gonna die, and I'd rather die sooner than deal with an asshole before dying. He says, I get it. Cats are assholes, but humans, i.e. I, Carl, put up with you because because cats don't talk. It was your nature as a cat to be an asshole, and I respect that not giving a fuck nature. We've heard him talk about how he respects Donut as a cat, but now that she has sapiency, she has agency, full agency, capability, self-sufficiency, and most importantly, speech. Now that your drama is affecting me, I'm out. Yeah.
He's like, the only reason why we put up with cats is because they don't fucking talk.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is interesting. Carl being so willing to just forge out on his own and give up his chances when he'd be probably better off with Donut. He's willing to like not throw in the towel. What am I trying to say? He'd rather
he's willing. Yeah, he's willing to just like go his own way.
Yeah, he'd rather die than deal with drama, which I think it was at this point, as I was reflecting on this after I read it over the last 2 weeks, that I'm like, interesting. Carl is like, I won't deal with drama, but I'll be dramatic in how I not deal with drama. There's some fragile masculinity going on here.
A little bit.
Carl's a little bit of he acts really tough, but he seems really fragile in his capability to deal with drama.
But I think it's also just like maybe laying some truth on Donut now that Donut is aware and can hear it. You know? So like he's like, you're an asshole. Stop, like, you know, like, shut up, quit it. What the fuck? Like, I'm a person, you know, like, and he's like, fine, if this is how you want to do it, then you go that way and I'm going to go this way. And we don't have to be a party. You know what I mean? But then like, this is what leads into what I would say is like, this is the conversation where everything changes between
This
them.
is huge. I was not expecting it to go this way.
Go
ahead and
Donut,
talk about it.
Yeah. So Donut is like, Carl is literally about to like do an about face and like start walking the other way. He's like, bye, sayonara. And then like, she's like, wait, no. And then she has this real moment of vulnerability with him. And she's like, I'm scared. I don't want to be alone. And then, you know, like really kind of, she explains like, you know, have you ever woken up from a dream and it takes you a while to realize that that's not who you are anymore. And you have to, you're like waking up. So then she describes that she remembers all of the things and all of her life experiences, what it was like before the pet biscuit, before she became aware. She remembers everything. She still remembers that. And she remembers how that felt.
Yeah.
And she describes to Carl in a way, she's like, I remember going to those wonderful, horrible shows.
Yeah,
with
horrid yet wonderful shows of being told what a princess I am. And then suddenly my mind looked back on all of it and I understood what happened. I am a grand champion, Carl. I'm supposed to act a certain way. But watching you get fragged over and over in Call of Duty, I like that too. I mean, you really suck at that game, but you keep playing. I didn't realize it at the time, but I liked that.
And that to me is even more amazing because like at the time she didn't, like, as a cat sitting on his lap watching him die over and over again, she had this experience then, and only now is she able to like realize I really enjoyed that time with you. You know, and then she also goes on to say like, you know, I need you and you need me too. And it, like she's reminding Carl like she lets him know like, I know you were going to catnap me. There was a day when you could have taken me back when the roads were clear and you didn't. And you were looking up apartments that accept cats. You want me around. I need you, you need me. And he's like, he's having this moment also where he's like, oh my God, that's exactly what I was going to do. And then he's realizing that she realizes that. So his eyes are open to like the way that she was, the fact that she was just a cat, but now she's like this, she's like a person. She's a person. She's a people.
Yes.
And he had every intention of keeping her because he does love her. This
is such quick, fast, deep characterization, and I love it. And not just characterization. So let's walk back. Have you ever woken up from a long dream, one where you're one thing and then you wake up and you realize that's not who you are? Matt Dinniman is insinuating something about how animals dream right here, because since becoming 11, then 16 intelligence, Donut has not slept. She has not dreamt. So she's asserting that as a cat with one intelligence, she had dreams of herself that she would wake up from and realize that that was not her. Wild to me.
That her time as a cat was the dream.
Well,
as like a domesticated cat was a dream.
If she was a human and said this, I'd be like, wow, that's a great analogy. But she doesn't have experience of that analogy.
Right.
Like I don't know. I read that as she's literally saying, have you ever done, like, has this happened to you?
Right. Interesting. And I hadn't considered it from that perspective.
And that it has happened to her.
Yes.
Literally. Anyway, I wrote, this is an interesting, like, this is bringing up for me nature versus nurture when it comes to cats. Yeah. Very interesting because she's talking about how, like, she was molded into who she was by attending those shows. But she still has all of these, like, natural cat instincts, even like now with her increased intelligence. I love that when she's, like, being vulnerable, like, I love spending time with you while you were playing Call of Duty, which you fucking suck at, by the way. Like, even being vulnerable, she's still teasing and ragging on him. Yeah. We get the classic fantasy, I'm transformed and now the same person, but more. But this transformation is, like, super messy. And we're also getting, like, the same problem that Mordecai described with, like, when people's wisdom changed, it got really weird and it was, like, hard for them to change and hard to simulate that. And this, like, her charisma hasn't even, or her wisdom hasn't changed, but, like, all of her other stats did, and it's difficult for her. And then I wrote, especially in that first sentence, traveling to those horrid yet wonderful shows.
Yes.
Like her whole thing that her entire identity is built around. I wrote, B is a pageant mom and Donut is a traumatized pageant girl.
Exactly. That's exactly. Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, but at the same time, she really loved the adulation. And she really loved getting those fucking purple ribbons. And she really loved people telling her how beautiful and perfect she was. And, like, but even then, now she looks back and she's like, God, it was terrible. And I miss it. And, like, you can hate something and still miss it at the same time.
Yeah. You can tell that Donut is really struggling with how to be emotionally vulnerable and also not be an asshole at the same time. She's like, she has these two features of her personality. When Carl says, "So you're not a princess?" Oh, I'm a princess, Carl.
I'm definitely a princess.
But I'll try not to be too much of an asshole. And I wrote in brackets for you, like implying like she won't be an asshole to Carl. I need you. And you need me, okay? Reminder. Look, I'm really scared here. I don't want to be alone, which you said. And I know you, and you don't want to be alone. She talks about when he was looking at the map on Craigslist. She also understands Craigslist and the context of that moment. Yep. Amazing. This is her... she also says, also after you and B broke up and there was all this snow, there was that day that the pass over the mountains was clear. You could have returned me, but you looked for a home that allowed cats instead. And I wrote in all caps, you like me.
Exactly. She's like, even though, and this is something that is really, I think, important too, about like what Donut realizes about Carl, that Carl doesn't need to verbalize, right? Because it's just very apparent in his character, is that, like, without saying, I love you, Donut, you're important to me, whatever, in those moments where she needs that assurance, like, he doesn't need to say that because his actions spoke louder.
Yeah.
His actions said he loved her. He didn't want to give her up. He raised her from the time that she was a kitten. That's his biological cat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Carl, you may not like drama. You may not even like your emotions, but damn it, we have evidence that you have them, bro.
Exactly.
Yes. So Carl admits that, yes, he was doing this, but he ultimately resigned not to stealing Donut and running away to a new apartment with her because of the reality that B's dad is a lawyer. If there's something worse than a cat pageant family, it's a cat pageant family with an attorney in the family.
And she very quickly is like, you would never have won.
Yeah. He knows it too. So, but at least in this moment, he resigns to being together. So they go back to their original dynamic of trying to one up one another and teasing one another with what seems now as a mutual understanding that they care for one another and that the teasing is loving. He says, me not having pants is your fault. Because she leapt out the window in the middle of the fucking cold. She points out, well, if I hadn't done that, we'd be dead right now. Carl, while he finds a pack of cigarettes and a lighter in his jacket, starts to ask, hey, why did you jump out the window? And then Donut goes into she gets the sound effect when there's an enemy nearby that has been alerted to your presence. Right. She goes into combat mode. Yeah. She jumps on Carl's shoulder and does something I really, really liked. Matt Dinniman added this little sensory experience of she jumped on Carl's shoulder. He notices that she doesn't weigh as much because he's now stronger. Although arguably now that she has twice the strength he does, shouldn't she be knocking him over when she jumps? Anyway, but she wraps her tail around his neck. That's kind of like this... sensual is not the right word, but intimate, I'm here, and but also serves as a balancing thing, and it gives them this kind of connection where if either one of them starts to move, the other will be able to sense it really clearly. I really love this detail. And then go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna talk about the combat, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, please talk about the combat.
I was gonna say, this is something that's really that was interesting to me because it's a level 1 mob. Granted, not really that powerful, but
it was honestly, a level 3. It's a level 3 monster.
Oh, okay, level 3 monster. So but still not powerful in the grand scheme of things, but compared to their level now, fucking terrifying. It's a giant llama.
A level 3 bad llama.
Bad llama. And this is their first foray into fighting alongside one another.
Yes.
And it's a little what do I do? Do you do this? What am I gonna do? And then Donut very quickly learns a lesson about mana.
Yeah, here I'm on the.
Please read. Yeah.
Sorry, on my stream, I'm pulling up the text so we can see. There's an image at the start of this chapter. A lot of chapters have an image. This one just has a llama with a hoodie that has holes for its ears to go up through the hoodie. It's got these big ass sunglasses on, and it's got a cigarette or some sort of stick it's chewing on. Its lower lip is just hanging real low, and it just looks like a motherfucker. I love it.
Asshole.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't go quite as smoothly as maybe it could have gone.
Yeah. we get another moment of Carl worried about the humanity of enemies, where he's Donut fires the first magic missile, and he's like, well, what if that was a human? And then she's like, are you fucking kidding me? Look at that thing. Because it's in the darkness, so they can't see it at first. I think Donut actually probably can with cat-like night vision or darkness vision. But Carl is worried about what they could be hurting. Still an interesting detail. Go ahead.
Well, it goes one of the things, okay, the first thing I want to talk about is that she shoots fucking missiles out of her eyes. Her magic missile, the skill that she got, like the spell book that she read, she now has the power of magic missiles, and she can shoot them out of her eyes.
Well, what else is she gonna shoot him out of? She doesn't have a wand or hands,
right,
or
exactly. And I just thought that I was like, oh my god, like in terms of like a skill that you can possess, like shooting missiles out of your eyes is fucking epic.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
yeah.
But like, oh, anyway, but yeah, the llama itself spits lava. That's hard to say.
Yes,
Lava. Anyway.
yes. Carl asks, what if it's a person? It charges, and it's wincing from these attacks, even though Donut is level 1. But of course, her stats are well above level 1, should be, so maybe that's affecting her damage to this thing. And then as soon as he sees it like wincing and continue to charge, he's like, all right, keep shooting at that fucking thing. And then as soon as he can see it, we get the description of the monster. Level 3, Bad Llama. If he were human, he'd be covered in prison tattoos, hanging out in front of the Circle K, hitting on 14-year-old girls. This is more sexual harassment. Yeah. I'm getting kind of tired of it already.
I mean,
but
listen,
I get it. The analogy that they're trying to draw.
Maybe this is nothing that you've ever experienced, but as a woman, I definitely have. And being hit on, like they're just trying to, in the most descriptive way possible, show you the content of this bad llama's character. Like,
sure.
This is a dude who hangs out outside of malls and hits on young women.
But I think it could have been just as effective as if they said hanging out in front of Circle K, hitting on young women
instead of 14-year-old girls. Is that
I don't know. At least don't make it like
explicit,
like explicitly underage girls, like.
But that's the point.
Like they could say college, they could say college women, or I don't know. It to me, it's just this little detail that made it like cross a line. And I mean, even the next line works for me. Like they might be willing to sell you something if you have good stuff to trade. Like that's also kind of menacing, but not in such a like.
But it is
unnecessary way.
I guess I didn't find it to be like unnecessary because like it immediately I grew up in a really bad neighborhood, Nick. Like this was evocative.
Well, you've got a thick skin for this sort of thing that I don't.
I suppose I do. There's nothing wrong with that. I hope that never ever changes. Ever. I love you very much. I just this immediately called to mind a very specific kind of person that I am very familiar with. So but I can see how it would be disturbing.
But so like if I were a crawler and I saw this tooltip, me and my hyper liberal ideology, I'm going to be like, I'm like, oh, this is a character who I could trade stuff with, maybe someone I need to worry about a bit, but there could be benefit here, especially with my goblin pass tattoo. Oh, but he's someone who hits on 14-year-old girls. I'm immediately like gonna cancel this guy in my mind.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like this dude is fucking problematic. Like I don't want to trade shit.
Exactly.
With this guy.
Exactly. Like it sounds like you're saying he's a level of problematic I see, but I'm still willing to potentially work with if if there's
he's a level of problem. No, not at all. He's a level of problematic that I immediately assess as a threat.
Okay. So, and maybe that's the goal of the like hitting on 14-year-old girls is like it's a level of problematic that we're not willing to work with, and we can feel okay about magic missiling him multiple times and killing him.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, don't feel bad about ending this thing's life. Perfect.
Yeah. I love that these tooltips and the voice are constantly exploring like alternative encounters with the monsters. Like, we could have gotten along well with the goblins if only we had a goblin pass. We could have gotten along with the bad llama if only we hadn't read the tooltip and hadn't attacked him.
Right. Yeah. It usually happens after the fact.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're in a dungeon. It's very shoot first, ask questions later. Who knows? Maybe it would have attacked them first.
Yeah. So yeah, the tooltip also warns about not wanting to get hit by their spit. And the llama, which is described as the size of a horse, spits. It spits lava. How does Carl react to this?
He punches it.
That's not what he does at first. He sees that it spits lava and he hesitates.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I would too, but we've seen Carl is a man of action, but in this moment seeing fucking lava?
Well, he's a man of action, but he's not an idiot.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, but no, once he sort of gets his bearings and he realizes that he's like, hit it with another missile.
Right. And that's what I think for me, the hesitation is he's like considering his options and he's like, I could charge this or Donut could just keep shooting it. Donut, keep shooting. And she's like, I can't.
Donut's a great melee weapon,
No, she's not.
Well, for 3 missiles at least, she is.
Fair. But Carl's like, hey, do you have any of those mana potions? Because he ran out of mana so fast. I love that his so me as a gamer, my instinct is to be hyper conservative with items until it's clear to me how economical it is to use them. Are we going to get a lot of these mana potions? Are they a precious resource? Are they common? Also, games aren't life or death for me, and he's facing a lava spitting horse-sized llama. So of course he's like, use a potion, shoot it.
Feel it.
Yeah. And Donut, I think either he shoots another missile or it becomes clear as the llama comes out of into the light that she shot it in the eye and gave it the septic condition. And
the crown does have some benefit.
Yes. And we're able to power scale level 1 Donut against a level 3 monster. We see that in the 1 or 2 shots she's hit it with, it's lost 3/4 of its health and is losing more because it has sepsis, kind of like a poison, bleed effect. But we learned that the sepsis condition can be removed and with a heal, like a simple heal. So Carl punches it. How does that go?
So the llama is firing up like a big wad of lava spit, and it's like he sees it like coming up its throat. He punches it in the throat and he feels something break, and he doesn't immediately know if it's the bones in his hand or if it's whatever sack was holding the lava in the llama's throat. But maybe it's both. So he punches it, since he's got his pugilism skill and everything. Punches it, breaks the lava sack open, kills the llama.
Yeah.
And immediately realizes that he's broken his hand. But we also see a really cool, I know, like the crunching was definitely the bones in his hand. So, but this is really cool because it gives us the opportunity to, as the reader, see how the dungeon heals these illnesses, ailments, physical pain over time in the dungeon. Like his hand immediately begins to heal itself.
Right. We don't actually, I don't think it's told us how much health he lost by punching an enemy. But yes, it describes like his hand like knitting itself back together.
Right. Like his health bar may have dipped, but he definitely fucked himself up.
Yeah. It's here I wrote self-harm is going to be a problem during combat, and Donut immediately or maybe later on makes like the same assessment. She's like, this isn't great that you're hurting yourself while fighting. At least you have all that regeneration.
But you have to imagine that, like, this is sort of like one of those moments where like the real world outside of the dungeon and the dungeon are sort of overlapping one another.
Right.
You punch something in real life, you fucking hurt your fist. You know what I mean?
True.
But he's also level 1. So like as he continues to level up and as he gets like better gear, you have to assume that that's going to change. Because like even what was it, the troll skin or the cloak or something where it adds a level of like self-healing?
Yeah.
Like 5%,
like 7 points. We don't really know what that means in terms of like how much health per minute, how much health per second. We don't know, but
exactly. But just based on like the gear that he's already received, like he's already got a buff, like he's already got a boost to self-healing. So that doesn't mean it's not going to hurt. It just means that like, you know, it hurts, but like you'll get better. Don't worry. And then the llama is now dead.
Llama's dead.
Donut's like, I dealt most of the damage, so I get to loot it first.
Yeah, we get to see how loot works.
Yeah.
It's like a merit or strength based mechanics. We learn it's sort of based on how much damage you do, or like your participation. It shows these tooltips for skinning, cooking, and other items, which are listed as meth.
Yep. He's a bad llama. He's
a bad llama. He hangs out around Circle K. Yep. So Donut gets first rights. She takes the leather. As soon as she selects this, the llama's skin disappears.
Yep. He's just a big mass of muscle on the ground.
Yeah.
So gross.
Donut gets enough experience to level up to level 2. I think Carl had already made it to level 2 or 3 by this point. They finish. I think they loot the meat.
Yes.
I don't think they take the meth, but
no, they do.
Oh, they do.
Take the meth and the meat, and Carl notes this because he notices 2 new things pop up in his inventory. One is food, and the other is pharmaceuticals.
Oh, that's right. Oh boy!
And I like this because, like, you kind of get a better idea of like how the inventory is sorted.
Right. Yeah. There's like categories of items.
Yeah. So just little things. I mean, like we see more stuff of like with the inventory like later in the book and everything, but like this is the first moment like where like he's introducing us to like what that inventory system is gonna like look like. It's really great.
Yeah. So they agree that they need to continue to level up, like use their time wisely to maximize their time, like get the most out of it. Items, loot, explore, learn, and level. Oh, and to do cool shit. So like the economics, the capitalist hellscape of the economics of this dungeon are insane. They decide that the main road is not the best. They begin to explore. They find some more tutorial guilds and lots of bathrooms about every quarter mile.
Everywhere.
They learn that they see that the bathroom doors are like reused from the world before it got terraformed. But whoever opens the door, it opens like it portals to their unique bathroom.
Yes.
Like,
so it's like a personal space.
Carl
almost.
has his own personal bathroom, and so does Donut. And it's the same exact one. Like, you go in, you use it, you close the door and leave, you go back in. It is the exact same bathroom.
And Carl tests this theory by putting the toilet paper inside of like the waterless bowl.
What an idiot. He has no other toilet paper now. Fucking idiot. Well,
I mean, but there's no water. There's no water in it. It's fine. So
there is water. No, he dips it in the water.
No, there's no water.
Oh, is that what it said?
Waterless.
My note says he dipped it in water, but I might be wrong.
I'm almost certain. My dude.
We're debating this. There's also no sinks.
Right. No.
Which sucks.
Everybody's walking around with pee-pee hands. It's fine.
Donut can open the door by getting close to it and looking at them. Donut has her own room with a litter box. And after this bit of exploring and learning about how dungeon toilets work, Carl realizes that he's operating on like 1 hour of sleep. He has the fatigued condition and cannot cure it, despite trying to use his heal ability. So they start looking for a place to rest. They fight some rats. Carl gets bit by some rats and sees that his cloak is ignoring their poison. Killing them produced a ton of gore. He notes that there's like twice as much blood as should be, like given their bodies. I wrote, is this showmanship and drama for the show on behalf of the creators? Like, are they intentionally putting too much blood in things, or or they just manifest blood out of thin air as things are dying? I don't know. They learn more about the XP system because Donut makes sure that she participates as minimally as possible while still participating. I think she files like 1 magic missile per fight and just lets Carl do the rest.
Yep. So she still gets XP.
Yeah, she still gets XP by being in a party that kills monsters, but it's more XP based on how much damage you do. Carl suspects that tanking and healing and other forms of participation also count. I wrote, is this a combat only XP system? Do you get XP for exploration? Do quests grant XP or completing puzzles or overcoming obstacles or achieving like social resolution of encounters? I guess we'll find out. Carl notes that Donut is making an effort to be less of an asshole, but often says and does things without realizing it. Both insulting him and by saying things, or just like rubbing up against him and purring and then going, what? Like, well,
so like that was a moment that I really enjoyed, like where when he would kind of like lean up against a wall, she would still show him like cat like affection,
right?
Like purring and like, you know, doing like the pretty kitty, like just, you know, like, hey, I'm here with you, I love you, like. And then when he would like look down at her, she's like, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Like, what? This is how I show affection.
Yeah. Matt Dinniman hits the gas pedal again. They accomplish 10 more fights before they find a safe room. Carl spends his entire time fighting these monsters with his feet. Donut fires 1 magic missile per fight, and her magic skill is leveling up. She regens her magic a lot faster than Carl with her like intelligence of 17. She gets like 1 magic point per minute, whereas he got like 1 per hour or something like that. And she needs 5 points in total to cast magic missile. We learn that Carl hits level 3 and gets the foot soldier skill, which increases his kick damage. He also gets smush. Yeah, do you want do you want to read this?
So
where is
like,
this?
So okay, so like it says, as he's reading it, he
gets the level 3 skill smush.
He goes, the smush skill was something else. The voice reading the skill description was deeper, more throaty than usual. I could actually hear him breathing like he was a dude beating himself off while he said it.
So this is a third AI voice.
No, well, actually, but it's the same AI voice.
But with a like different inflection.
Very aroused.
Oh boy. Okay.
So like again, this is you really should listen to the audio, but he's like, smush, you're level 3. And then he's like, killing with your feet, your bare, beautiful feet, taking your bare foot, placing it on top of a living, conscious life, and then pressing lovingly down until that life ceases to be. Is there any more noble way to kill? And it's just like, it's so horrible. It says the amount of pressure you can bring to bear upon an enemy with your unshod foot is increased by 10% with each level of this skill. But just like imagine I'm a throaty, gross, horny dude.
Oh boy.
It's so good. I can never do it justice. It's so fucking amazing. But then he like tries to describe it to Donut, and Donut is like, so it seems like you're not getting any shoes now because the AI has a little crush on your little
Yeah.
cookies.
Yeah, and he remembers how it, like, the message he got when he jumped on the engineer, the goblin.
Yeah.
So he's
"Hey,
like
that's
noting, like,
fetish."
this is not the first time my feet have been fetishized.
Oh, it's definitely a running theme. So yeah, like this is very much like, all of the level ups and skills and stuff that he's getting, like for being barefoot in the game. Um, Donut says something amazing. She goes, I guess we're not getting you shoes, Donut said after I made the mistake of describing the skill to the cat. He says, yes, we are, as soon as possible. She goes, it sounds to me like the computer fancies you, Donut said, or your feet at least. We need to take advantage of that. If the system likes us, then maybe it'll go easier on us.
I wonder how much agency the system has. Probably not much, but to like grant awards at its own or level ups at its own discretion, or if it's like very rigorously maintained. Because like I wonder if it's like giving him these skills to encourage that behavior.
Of course it is. It absolutely is.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's what the toe ring. It wants him to smush things.
Okay, fair. I think that it is definitely curating skills, but I wonder if it's like granting him those skills faster than it would any other crawler. Or if it's just tailoring them. I'm suspicious.
Fair enough.
So it's at this point where I thought this was a third voice, but I think you're right that it is describing like the voice that was throatier than usual. It's the same voice but just different. But it's at this point that I'm like, okay, if we're gonna have different voices of this system, I wish that the text like had a way of distinguishing it in the way that the text was presented, either like with color or some sort of note other like, because I don't know, it's not like using a name for each of the different voices, like it's not like giving them a different character. I think we're just supposed to infer it. But one thing that this like desire of mine reminded me of was of the Hunter x Hunter manga. There's a character Hisoka who's like a clown looking. He's a magician with a clown aesthetic, which includes like these tattoos or maybe makeup of a star and a teardrop on on both cheeks. But almost all of his text, like in the like speech bubbles, have like a playing card suit that is associated with kind of like a different tone. And I wish each of these voices had like some sort of symbol to denote each voice.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. Anyway, so because like I don't know how many of these system AI voices we're gonna get. Maybe it's just 2, but at this point I'm like, if I need to keep track of which voice is which voice, I'd like something a little clearer and easier to follow.
Understood. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure that the voice actor does a great job at making those voices distinct. Okay. I wrote that. Let's see here. What did I say? It's a weird position to take, the fact that the AI is like has a foot fetish, given some of these other comments about sexual harassment. Donut also kind of gross in her position. She's like, she just kind of basically shrugs at him, saying like, I think the AI has a thing for me and it's weirding me out. I feel uncomfortable, and she's like, deal with it. Let's use it to our advantage. Which I mean, like, yes, if I'm in a life or death situation, sure, but also like I as a reader am not. This is weird. Donut is kind of dehumanizing him here,
but at the same time, in a world where
or at least invalidating his feelings.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
If but if the shoe were on the other foot, so to speak, but and he was like, and it was like Donut's feet or something, and Donut took umbrage to it. And Carl would be like, "Hey man, this might give us an advantage." Donut would be like, upset also. So this is just like, the AI has a thing for Carl's feet.
Yeah.
And Donut's like, if this could help us stay alive, smush everything.
Donut's just like, well, AI will be AI. Boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys. Oh, gosh. But yeah, but it's like, in the real world, yes, problematic. But in a world where like everything is trying to kill you and this might give you a leg up, fucking
yeah.
Let the AI bukkake all over your toes. I don't even care.
Dear God.
If that's what gives you better loot, then fucking do it.
I do like that the script is flipped on this, like, we have a male character subject to the lecherous gaze of an AI, and it's a female character that's saying, we'll just deal with it. Let's use it to our advantage. I do like that. It's kind of refreshing, even though this is not a refreshing thing that's happening.
It's not great, but like at the same time, it is funny.
Okay, so they go on, they encounter these enormous cockroach bugs called scatters. They continue to experience them in such numbers and density in the area that Carl suspects there's a nest nearby. They reach a safe zone, and we see that a level 4 scatter scuttles away. Something that is yet still stronger level wise than them. Probably not stats wise, but still. Okay. Was there anything else to cover in this chapter before we move on?
No, we covered it. We got everything.
All right. This next chapter, oh man, I have a tough time choosing between chapter 6 and getting all of like New Donut and this chapter being my favorite of this section.
Chapter 8 was very long. There was like a lot going on in chapter 8. Chapter 9 is a little more succinct. In terms of like what a safe zone looks like.
Yeah.
Like what you can do in a safe zone, the kind of characters that you might find there. Yeah. And I think for me, I think chapter 9 is my favorite.
I really like chapter 9 because we get to meet a new character and we get to a really interesting new place. I didn't write a summary. I forgot to, but if I did, I would have written Hotel Wendy's.
Yeah.
And the reason I wrote that, you and I and our partners recently went to a restaurant that looked like it was housed in an old Wendy's restaurant. You know how at the one end they have the kind of like rounded solarium glass in the dining area. I've been to a number of restaurants in that exact setup, and every Wendy's I've ever been in has that setup.
Yep.
And that is the environment I pictured. Yeah. I that is what I pictured the interior of, even though they gave us a very different description of a clearly Polish fast food restaurant.
Like a McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been 6 hours of crawling since they left Mordecai, so it's been probably 10 hours total. Carl's still on only 1 hour of sleep, has been fighting and navigating in a stressful environment for 10 hours. The safe zone they find is a fast food restaurant with an indoor play structure, kind of like a McDonald's. Donut calls this place magical. They cannot read the earth signs, but Carl suspects it's Polish. We can see that the dungeon is reusing a lot of man-made structures rather than making everything from scratch.
Yes.
There are 3 menu boards that are legible because they're in the kind of like common text galactic common, I'll call it, that he can read and they can understand. One of the screens reads, the countdown until the premiere is in like a little less than 24 hours. The remaining number of crawlers is 4,322,395. 14 million entered. 6 hours ago, it was 10 million left. Now it's a little over 4. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
They've lost almost 10 million crawlers.
Yeah. In less than a day.
Carl
was pretty fucked up about it.
Yeah, he's very emotional about this. You can tell he values human life. Like, he has a reverence for life. Maybe human life more so than other life, but and donuts as well. But yeah. The second screen is a leaderboard that says it will populate upon the collapse of the third level. So there's no information here other than that. And I write, what constitute, like, what makes you a leader? What does they value? Kills? Damage? Your level?
Well,
your money? Your stats? The quality of your loot? How quickly you clear a level faster compared to other crawlers? Is it number of achievements? I don't know.
So that's something.
Number of subscriptions or followers.
It's a callback. Exactly. Number of followers. So it's a callback to like what Mordecai talked about in the tutorial.
Yeah.
So, but they won't see those numbers. They won't know how many, like where they sit until further down.
Yeah. Well, now if people are going to be competing for followers because of this leaderboard and whatever that means, I mean, Mordecai already told us you're competing against other crawlers for followers because that will get you sponsors.
They can only follow so many people.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes. And so that is going to, like, I'm just thinking back to my idea of like competition among crawlers. Yeah. And how the dungeon is not only pitting crawlers against the dungeon, but also against one another.
Exactly. Donut's very much like, I want to be on that leaderboard. I want to be on that TV show. We need to be the best at everything. So like, and this is something that I wrote down. Like, while Carl is focused on surviving, Donut is like focused on, I'm going to thrive.
Right.
Like, I'm not just going to survive. we're going to be the best.
Yeah.
We're going to be the most interesting. We're going to be the most entertaining.
Yeah. She's like the Senna.
All the followers. Yes.
The Senna, again, calling back to Hunger Games, Senna being the fashion designer / makeup artist, what's that profession, like just stylist,
a stylist,
like all in one stylist,
an eye into the world and what it takes to be popular,
right, in
that arena, right? Like he has a better understanding of like what Katniss needed to gain everybody's attention. He makes her natural attributes shine.
Yeah.
And that's what Donut is seeking to do with her and Carl. She's like, okay, well, if we have to be here, then we're gonna be the most popular, and we're gonna have a catchphrase, and we're gonna kill the. Maybe we need to focus on a special move.
yeah, or
she's and this is like her show cat coming through. She's like, I know what we need to do. This is how we get the votes.
Yeah. The third sign says the number of rental rooms available. This is a hotel or a motel. There are 20 available. It lists a cost per room. It says 0. Hotels or rental rooms are gonna cost money in future floors, huh?
Yeah.
And then it says personal spaces available for purchase on 4th level. Food available at this location. So personal spaces, I assume, are customizable, and like bathrooms are one that if you rent one in one of these Wendy's, probably like if you have collectible stuff in them or loot that you've left in them, they'll like you'll just portal into it or something like that. I'm guessing.
It's your base of operations. Yeah, absolutely.
And then great, there's food. He needs food. There won't always be food available at these.
Not always. That is true.
And it's at this point that Carl realizes that there's an NPC just standing there still behind the counter.
Just a little white dot waiting for him to notice him.
Just a dude. And the chapter cover, or the image at the start of the chapter has like a little gnome dude with like a huge ass beard, messy hair, enormous nose, unkempt whiskers and beard, and he's got like this massive belt and shoes, and he's like holding his belt with both hands. He looks like either like a gnome or like a kind of lightweight dwarf, so to speak.
Yeah.
So this dude is wearing a uniform, like a fast food uniform with like a paper hat and a name tag that says Tally. His tooltip says he's a Bopka protector, level 63, which is way higher than Mordecai. And it lists him as a non-combat NPC. Bopka protectors are magical gnome-like creatures that exist only to watch over safe rooms. They prepare food and are custodial staff. They are surly. This gave me pause because I had recently learned the word sultry from Donut's voice description, and I was like, wait, he's sultry too? No, surly. Smelly, and then it says, and they never wash their hands, which I then immediately look back up at. They prepare food and are custodial staff.
Yep.
Great.
But I also kind of look at Tully in the same way that I look at like Mordecai, because like of the race that he's portrayed as, like he's a rat mob on the first floor, right? But like that's not indicative of his character. It's just like what, maybe the Bobkas are portrayed as being gross. But maybe that's not really who they are. Maybe that's just the generic sort of whatever that the AI associates them with.
I don't know if Tally, is it Tully or Tally?
I think it's Tally.
Yeah. I don't know if Tally, like if we're going to see Tally again. I hope so. But I think when we saw Mordecai, it described them as a like changeling or whatever the race is. But this character's race is Bopka, so they will not change. It sounds like, and they are not representing. Representing a monster on the floor.
Right. No, Bobka protectors are sort of like the guardians of like safe rooms, right? Like the safe rooms. Not all safe rooms are like true safe rooms, but the ones that have Bobkas are. Okay.
That scares me. So Tally speaks very loudly in a Slavic accent. Hold on one second. I had a burp. Do you wish for food? Carl politely inquires what they have to eat. Tally knows you are new here. This dungeon has just opened. It opened without warning, so Tally is not ready. I am ready enough to make most food for human crawler. Tally is prepared, has been preparing for many of your years to make food for human crawlers. I am not prepared for cat, but I have milk. Is better than pet biscuit. What the fuck? So this guy is one of the staff who's been studying Earth so much that he's A, adopted an accent, B, knows about cats, C, can make lots of human food. He clearly doesn't have a food handler's card because he doesn't wash his hands, but he's prepared enough. And has
maybe it's the same way as how Mordecai has spent as much time studying Earth's culture as Carl's been alive. Maybe this Bobka spent most of his time in Eastern Europe.
This feels very immersive of a game. You've got your bar or tavern NPC that's like, what do you want, friend? and he has this cute little uniform on. I think that's a really clever touch that he's like in the uniform of whatever this fast food restaurant used to be. Tally has food supplies prepared. He has recipes. He has milk, which he says is better than pet biscuits, but I thought Mordecai said that pets really liked those. It's at this point that I wondered, like, what about Donut's appetite now? Has Donut's appetite changed? And like tastes? These are unimportant questions, but they're questions I was asking. But the most important question I really need to know the answer to is, how come Tally didn't know that the dungeon was opening?
Nobody knew the dungeon was opening. So if you remember in the first chapter, Carl, like when Carl meets Mordecai, Mordecai's like, "What do you mean? You mobs can't be in here." And he's like, he's like, "Let me in. I need to do the tutorial." And he didn't even realize that the dungeon was open.
He didn't? Oh shit. I thought he was just like you can't come in here until those monsters are dead. I don't want to deal with this.
No, his very first thing, like when the door is still locked, he's like,
I missed that the first time.
He was like asleep. He had no idea the dungeon even opened.
Oh,
and
wow.
Tully now like reiterates that, where he's like, we didn't know that this was going to happen. So now two characters have said this.
Yeah, two characters said this, which is a very
so they're ahead of schedule. So something happened. Start the dungeon early.
Very mysterious. Like, it's just adding to the mystery of what the hell is going on here. It also feels very corporate that, like, oh, someone up the ladder made a decision, and of course no one got fucking communicated to, and we have to deal with it because we're the boots on the ground. I cannot identify with this more.
Yep, exactly. Somebody made a decision somewhere, and now we're all fucked.
Yeah. So I don't have anything more to say about this. Just lots of great characterization of this new character. Tally has yogurt and meat for Donut.
So Carl was like, what do you have to eat or whatever? And he's like, I can make anything for you. And then he's like, I have milk for the cat, and Carl's like, well, she likes yogurt. So he's remembering that he used to give her yogurt when she was a cat, but that Bee would get mad at him if he would give her too much yogurt.
Yeah.
This is just like another little kind of, just a nice little detail about what their life was like and how Carl would like sneak her treats.
Right.
Just one more little, and it's like a nothing burger kind of a statement, but at the same time, it's such a lovely like little detail about the way that he treated her and how he views her. Like that it was like a you sneak treats when mom isn't looking. But like I as far as like this level goes, like one of the things I wanted to point out about the babka and the safe room in general, like I love that Donut gets the fucking zoomies.
Yeah, that's so lovely.
Zoomies! But like what's great too is that like it's so funny because this is another thing like where Carl's kind of like, oh my god, she hasn't done that since she was a kitten. That was what, 4-5 years ago, something like that. And then immediately he goes into like what I like to think of as dad mode, where he's like, hey, slow down, don't hurt yourself. Right?
Yeah,
like even though he's
in total dad mode.
He is like, she's stronger than him, she's faster than him, more dexterous than him, and she can like jump higher. She's what I mean? And he's still like, hey, slow down, kid. Like, it's just very funny. But like the other thing is that like the babka, he's like, he says to him, he's like, what do you recommend? And he's like, you want me to choose food for you? And Carl's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So there's a couple things here that really struck me. First, the very first thing he says, his first text, do you wish for food? He then goes on to say, after Carl's like, sure, you really have yogurt? Yes. What is it you wish for? I realized at that moment that I was starving. Is there anything you recommend? A pause. You wish me to make food of my choice? So before we get to what like the recommendation is, there's this like, he invokes wish 3 times. He says the word wish 3 wishes. That's a genie thing. Like, I don't know. For me, genie's being invoked here. Did that come up for you?
No, it was more like an Eastern European cadence, speaking in like instead of saying "Do you want?"
Yeah, I get that his like his like speech, even though it's being filtered through this like translation service and other language, like it's still broken, even though he's using a universal language.
I know. I wish he was a genie, honestly.
but yeah, like, so the word, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but wish is here 3 times, which is weird. And then Carl's like, what do you want? And it's like, it's almost like we've immediately gone to, oh, I'm a genie. I'm supposed to be just on autopilot, but you're asking me what I want. You're giving me a choice. It's like, it's kind of like it just drew for me this, like, the genie's been freed, like, but like a half measure, because obviously he's not a genie and he's not been freed. But like his reaction, Tally's reaction is like, I've never been asked this question before. It's like a, Master Potter has given Dobby a sock.
Dobby a sock? Dude, yes.
So this was very interesting for me. It's like he doesn't even see that he has his own agency and just sees himself as a tool of service, a tool for the dungeon. It's like he has no ego. Like he's like, yeah, I wasn't ready, but he doesn't seem mad about it. He's just like, he's just plainly like, I'm unprepared. Like it's a fact. It's just like, this is something you have to deal with. Carl asks what he recommends. You wish for me to make a food of my choice. And this is where you left off, and I'll pass it back over to you. Thank you for letting me interrupt.
No, please. I love this though. It's interesting to me, like the things that like stick out for you that didn't stick out for me. And I'm just like, oh, I didn't see it that way. This is really wonderful for me. But like, I love that, like so this is like one of the more important things, like whenever he's not necessarily curt or surly, I guess, he's not as he gives deferential treatment to Donut here. And Donut, and this is where the charisma comes into play, because this is a non-combatant NPC. He's like a Baka protector. He's not like Mordecai, because he's not like a guild person, but he is just like a regular white dot NPC, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where the first instance where we see Donut's massive charisma like come into play, because like he bows to her, he refers to her as Your Highness.
Yes, he does.
Like, he's like, I'll make sure to have fresh meat for you tomorrow. And like he's kind of brusque with Carl in a way that he is not with Donut. Like, it's very much like, yes, madam, whatever you wish, madam. Like boot licking is not even the word. But then like he also makes the best food that Carl has ever eaten in his life.
It's really funny. He asks like, what do you recommend? We learn that Carl doesn't want fish because he doesn't like fish. Tally asks what his spice tolerance is, and there's like an uncertainty that they're talking about the same levels of spice. Carl says human spice level, a 4. If it's a human scale, it is a human scale. Now sit, open boxes, wait. I'm still, at this point, I'm still not convinced that they are talking about the same level of spice, but it works out and it's perfect. Yeah.
This makes me want to get Indian food so bad.
Yeah. The fact that Matthew Dinniman, like, he loves to introduce irony and wrinkles in the plan around every turn, and the turns happen so quickly and regularly because he's such an efficient writer that I never know, like, are we turning a corner and there's gonna be a wrinkle? Like, oh, the spice level is gonna be way too damn high and it's gonna, like, you know, give Carl the shits or something, or he'll politely turn it away and not eat.
I thought this too.
Yeah. So it just makes me like dubious of every line and everything that each character says. It's great. Okay. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I'll make you some food. Carl starts to open up more boxes. He gets a +1 Constitution ring. He's now at 10 Constitution. Donut has a gold magic item box for being in the first 100 to level up magic missile to level 3. Wow, there's lots of milestone achievements and rewards, I said. It's very generous and encouraging. Very interesting. She gets 25 potions of mana restoration. Yay! They're not super rare after all. And she gets... Uh-huh.
Oh, no, I was going to say, it's like, I think, because she used it, I think that's why she got more. Honest, and I think it's one of those things like where it's like if it's an item that you use a lot, then you'll probably get. Is that not how it works? Like in regular gameplay, or probably not?
I don't think so. Usually, loot tables are just kind of static and aren't usually based on the player's actions.
Oh.
Unless they're very distinctly designed to be that way. Yeah. Donut gets a little silver butterfly charm, the talisman of the slate butterfly. Those who remember and commemorate the sad tale of the slate butterfly are given a boon by the fairies of the world. That story even made me cry. Adds +4 to the light on your feet skill, which allows you to pounce higher and farther. Good for her. She's definitely going to need that with her high dex to get out of trouble. She goes and bounds around the play structure with even more intensity now. It also adds +1 to intelligence, which is great for Donut's magic and magic regen. It also adds winged fairies will no longer be automatically hostile toward you. And I wrote, how is this going to interact with the Goblin Pass that specifically called out winged fairies? They now have something that makes them like cause more damage and be hostile, and an item that makes them no longer automatically hostile.
Right, exactly.
What?
So like Carl has the Goblin Pass and Donut has like a fairy pass, basically. So like
yeah.
But because of the fairy loot, that will probably make the goblins more hostile towards Donut. But Donut also has like crazy high charisma, so like, does it matter?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out. In the meantime, Tally brings them back the yogurt and a huge feast for Carl of Murg. I don't know how to pronounce that. Murg Vindaloo.
It's Murg Vindaloo. Yeah.
Murg Vindaloo. That is just made my mouth water as I read it. Yep. And Carl dug in and absolutely loves it. Tally says, sorry, I don't have lamb. They took it to make a mob on floor 2. God damn it.
I forgot about that.
God damn it. He, like you said, addresses Donut as your Royal Highness, says that he ordered salmon for her for later and bows. And then Donut requests the nicest room that he has. Carl points out that they're probably all the same. But Tally responds with, of course, Your Highness, I will get you the nicest room. She is leaning into being an asshole, but not to Carl.
Not to Carl. She is using her charisma to their advantage.
Carl praises this Vindaloo as some of the best food he's ever had. Tally barely responds and basically just like doesn't even register it. Tally shares that he will be moved to a random floor when the floor collapses, and I wrote no. He says, I will move down until I am no longer needed, which is extremely ominous. So like he and other of these defenders will continue to populate future floors until there is no need for them. That sucks.
Until maybe there's no more safe rooms. I don't know.
Yeah. Carl is thinking that this is the best place for a base of operations, and maybe not going back out for several days and just like staying safe. And then I wrote, connect the fucking dots time. Thinks about Tally making anything in the world. Where like Tally said something about being able to make anything in the world, and then he realizes there is no world. The world is gone. He gets extremely depressed and thinks about those cigarettes that are in his pocket. He goes to smoke a cigarette, and then Tally like shouts at him like, do not do this, which
nope.
Yeah, no smoke. And I thought this is hilarious because Tally won't wash his hands but draws a line in smoking.
Yep. Like, that's disgusting, Carl.
Yeah.
No, like this is like a common theme. Like now over the last few chapters, like we're in moments of quiet contemplation or like relative safety. Carl's thoughts immediately turn back to the macabre and just he's like, holy shit, I'm alone. Oh my god, everyone's dead. So it's like,
yeah.
I think he, maybe he is one of those, in the very first chapter when he was talking about how B is like, you just act first, you don't think about it. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's a huge reason why, because like in those moments of quiet contemplation, like he has to like confront whatever's wrong with him. So it's better to just be in action and never have to think.
Yeah. He's also extremely sleep deprived, so this could just be like some like depression seeping in and his mood affecting him. I mean, like it's obviously a sad and terrible thing he's been through, and he's right to be feeling this, but Carl, you need some sleep, dude. But before he can sleep, Donut disagrees with him. She says, we can't stay here. We've got shit to do, as we've discussed. We have a regimen to get number one on the billboards. Carl retorts, we can use this place to try and take out a nearby nest that I suspect is out there. It could offer huge XP and other rewards. Donut accepts this argument, but brings them back to the most important thing. We have to kill them in style and draw attention to ourselves. We need a snappy way to kill them, something exciting yet cute, something with zest. I want on that show, Carl. We're not getting on the show, I said. Weren't you paying attention? Millions of followers, loot boxes. We need to get on that show. Maybe we need a catchphrase. He sighs. And that's, I believe, the end of the chapter. Yeah. So, yeah. This is interesting. I think Carl resisting the going on the show is both him resisting showbiz and also his little bit of pessimism about their odds.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
Yeah. One thing I noted about this, and maybe it's just Matt Dinniman's writing or the fact that it's early in the book, I read or heard something that when writing characters, it can feel really unnatural for characters to use each other's names a lot. Like, that's not how people normally speak. Like, how many times have I said Shannon in the last 3 hours since we started recording? Not many.
Yeah.
Even when referring to you or asking you questions. It's just something I noted.
No, you're not wrong. It is somewhat unnatural. But I just based on like, because Donut does say Carl a lot, but it's also like, how do I In my mind, it's kind of like whenever a little kid is like, "Mom, mom, mom," or "Dad, dad." Do you know what I mean? Like, but
and you know what?
She's never ever gonna call him dad. She's never gonna. You know what I mean?
That's fair, considering these two characters are both probably consider the fact that they're saying each other's name to each other that they can hear and understand for the first time. Like, sure, Carl has called Donut Donut, but like, has it ever registered to him that Donut like received the full meaning of that word?
Right, exactly. So yeah, it does feel like a lot, but then there are, and again, this isn't giving anything away, but there are like moments in like later chapters in the books or whatever where she'll say Carl, Carl, like she like calls to him twice, but like it's always like as an exclamation of like outrage.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I guess I did kind of see that almost as like, dad, like she just needs to get his attention. You know what I mean? But like, she's never, ever going to call him dad. He's never, ever referred to himself as her daddy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, he's Carl. That's Donut. So like, I don't know. It does seem, I know what you mean though. Like I would never in like natural conversation with you be like, so Nik, what do you think, Nik, about this thing, Nik? Like,
well, Shannon, I thought, natural. Shannon, when I think about that, I think to myself, Shannon, there must be some way of doing this, Shannon, that involves using your name more, Shannon.
Exactly. Nik, I'm so glad that you agree with me, Nik.
Exactly.
Nik, you're the best, Nik.
Shannon, I love you, Shannon. You're my Shannon.
Yay! Yeah, dude.
Okay. What else is there to say about this? I know that there was like one other detail that you were interested in talking about they mention the drinks available at the soda machine, something called Hoop Cola, water, milk, vodka, and something called Worka.
Yeah.
Which is he discovers it's a beer tap. An intact beer tap in the dungeon. Hell yeah.
Dude. Fuck yeah. When I lived in New Jersey, I lived in a Polish neighborhood and I used to get Worka a lot. And it was great because it came in like bottles that were like, they exceeded like the size of what you think a beer bottle should look like. They were huge. And that was the only way they came. It was like a 40. But it was good. It was like Polish beer is good. That was a good neighborhood.
I can't say I've had Polish beer. I'd imagine it's very light.
It is very light.
I'm not a big light beer fan, except when it's really hot.
Yeah. So it was fantastic. I mean, well, my apartment was like, I would call it Africa hot because I did not control the heat, and it was like it was just one of those units. Like there was no thermostat on the wall kind of unit. It was like, and I was like next to a boiler. So yeah, I think a nice cold, refreshing. I got a tomato plant and it died immediately because it was so hot in my apartment. It cooked it. I know, poor ragu.
Yeah.
Never named them until they are viable. I know that now. But like, yeah, no, Worka was great. It just made me excited to like see that in the story. I was like, oh my god, beer.
I know that thing.
Yeah. So Matt Dinniman either is a fan of Polish beers or he did his research, which I love. So
excellent.
What
Okay.
are you thinking for next week? Because like I will say that the next, I would say like up till about like chapter 15. Like they're all relatively short chapters.
Yeah.
So we could shoot for a shorter one. Just do 3 chapters, like chapters 10 through 12.
I'm looking here. I'm gonna send you a message with the page I'm looking at. I'm looking at the dungeoncrawlercarl.fandom.com wiki. They have like really brief descriptions of the chapters, and I'm trying not to read them too closely and too far ahead, but it's like at this point in time that I like start to look at them so I can start to like think about like our pacing and what would be a good group to go together, and just looking at these descriptions, which I'm not going to spoil for our listeners. So we'll do chapter 10, 11,
yeah,
and 12, I think. which have to do. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything.
No,
But
for
yeah,
sure.
chapter 13 looks like it's looking at something very different than what happens in 10, 11, and 12. So
Ooh, yeah.
yeah. So I'm just going to add that to the new section, chapter 10 through 12. You and I will figure out exactly when that will be, and we will post that date. If it's not next Tuesday, it'll probably be the following one. You and I need to just chat about our schedule, and maybe we can plot out more than just the next one and be able to announce in the next episode when the next one will be.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, chapters 10, 11, and 12 next time. I did not write clever no pants related episode titles for these chapters, unfortunately. It's been last week I was sick. And this week I've been going, like today I went to a conference in downtown Seattle. So I just have been very busy. These were a great set of chapters, really great characterization. Matt Dinniman's writing is so efficient. I feel like my summaries are nearly as long as the writing itself. When you add my summary with my thoughts on it, it's basically almost the same length.
I do the same. I know.
But when he chooses to be really verbose, it's so often for a great reason, for like setting the tone, the exposition, or just really building out the characters and their relationships, or even doing it secretly, like with the AI. Like I was getting really annoyed with some of the like really long descriptions of items and achievements and things. But then I realized like, no, this is like, Shannon is telling me that the AI is a character and they are being personified. They're given character here. So very clever.
I already told you this, but like the AI becomes more and more unhinged, and like the descriptions will become more. I can't wait.
I'm imagining like we're just gonna get achievements that are just like, let me lick your fucking toes. Like it's just gonna get like really, really gross.
Point, yeah.
Oh boy. I
can't wait.
Okay. Well, with that, thank you so much, Shannon. Thank you so much, viewers. Drop a comment on YouTube if you have any thoughts to add. If you're reading along with us, tell us what you thought. And we will see you next time on Read and React Dungeon Crawler Carl. Good night.
Good night.